Good evening. This is Glenda Carlin Bussick, and it is September 12th, 2023. Heck, fall is starting here. The season changes. And it's this is my Tuesday night, A Course in Miracles Zoom meeting, where I also incorporate whatever Holy Spirit brings to my attention during the week. Sometimes it can be Zen, Dzogchen Buddhism. It can be, I never know, something from St. Francis, St. Thomas, who knows? I just stay open, relaxed, and surrendered to Holy Spirit. I want to welcome in Son of God, which is, I'm just going to say God, Gonzalo, God, Nance, God, Barbie, God, Edward, God, Jerry, God, Leon, God, Debbie, God, Glenda, because in the Course, Jesus says, call yourself by your name, which is God. But first, he gets us to accept that you're actually a Christ, equal with Jesus. I mean, that's a big deal. And then and that all your brothers are that as well. Then he gets you to realize there's only him, there's only God. So how can he's our creator of source, of course, but there's only God. Only God's spirit and light animating every one of these forms, every one of our forms, etc. So welcome. And that's practicing Jesus's advanced forgiveness in A Course in Miracles. How we think of our brothers is how we think of ourselves, because everything we think, say, and do goes into the unconscious mind, and the unconscious mind believes that that's you. So if I'm talking about somebody else, it doesn't differentiate between me and somebody else. That unconscious mind believes everything I'm thinking, saying, and doing is about me, is me, that kind of stuff. So anyway, welcome. Now, the topic of conversation tonight comes about because of this is what's happening with me, what I'm experiencing, being in the now, in the eternal moment. And last week at the end of the Course meeting, I stopped the recording, and some of us stay in chat. And during that chat, I was bringing up about the now, and some of the people there brought up, well, we'd like to hear more about that. How can you live in the now? How can we be in the now? And I went, okay. So then I got out the Course in Miracles, of course. Then I got out a book called Buddha Standard Time by Lama Surya Das. And in it, it's full of meditations and steps, things to do to cultivate staying in the now, and how to recognize the now. And so I was reading that book. And in it, I forget if it's page 143, there's a sentence that says, opening, I got to think about what this is. Opening the crack in the eternal moment. Opening the crack in the eternal moment. And I wrote it on a sticky note, and I carried it around with me as I walk, and I'd sit in my chair. I'd contemplate it and think about it. But as I was walking, what's great about walking out in nature is that this open spaciousness, and then there's the birds, the squirrels, and the trees and greenery, etc. It lightens up a person. But anyway, I was out walking, and I'm reading that sticky note and asking Holy Spirit, help me. I would like to live in the eternal moment. Help me. I want to live in the eternal moment. Welcome, God, Joanne. Welcome. And so here's what, I forgot to write this in the email, but here's what happened. So I talk with you all about, in the Course, Jesus talks about the horizontal plane, which is the physical earth plane, physical realms, not just earth, all the universes, all the planets, all the galaxies, There's beings on other planets, other galaxies, other universes. I don't know if they're whatever, you know what I'm saying? A physical, the Big Bang, where the Son of God made or created the Garden of Eden, and the Big Bang, the blew out and made form. Okay. In that big explosion of light and love that made form, everything was perfect and loving and wonderful. The children, the Son of God, he knew he was God. He was spirit. He was love and light, and was playing in the Garden of Eden. He was playing with all these forms, all these images and things. And so when I was out walking, Holy Spirit was talking to me with thoughts. You know how that is. And the thoughts were that in the Garden of Eden, picture, you're in the Garden of Eden now. We're in the Garden of Eden now. We just don't know it, which is also heaven. Heaven is this mindset of our Christ Buddha mind, God mind, that's remembering. It's naturally there. We've just veiled it, obscured it with thoughts, concepts, and judgments. So we're unveiling, purifying our mind, removing these thoughts and judgments to unveil this pure, clear light, this light and love that we are, that animates everything, that's spirit, etc. But picture in the Garden of Eden, and when you wake up, what'll happen is you will play with these images. You'll play with them. So I was out walking and I realized that this light that animates everything, we are it. We are that light. So that I could go inside the tree. That's just a form. You go, and I'm spirit, I'm light, and feel what it's like to be a tree. That's what we were doing in the perfection of the Garden of Eden, just having fun in the sandbox. How would the sand feel like to be a sand particle, to be a flower, to be whatever the animals were, what the mountain that was there. And even if you picture being in your body, well, we'll get that in a second. Your house, just picture, like if I'm a squirrel, I just go into the squirrel's body and I'm looking out the squirrel's eyes, you know, and feeling this, what the squirrel's feeling. And that's one of the main things A Course in Miracles does in Dzogchen Buddhism. They want you to put yourself in the other person's spot, have empathy and compassion for others, where we're growing from me to we. How can I help my brothers? How can I be more loving and kind? Well, how I can be more loving and kind is put myself in that other person's position. How would I feel if I was them? Granted, we still set our boundaries. We still are not doormats to anything psychologically, physically. We call 911 if we need to. But yet, just picture, was the Garden of Eden. We were all just playing. The Son of God was playing with all these forms and all of us. But then when he got into a form, a body, and was feeling the form, and that's one of the things of how to be in the now, is to be aware of what you're thinking, saying, doing, and what your feelings are. Just being aware of what it feels like to be in your body, because that spirit, that awareness is your Christ mind, God mind, your awareness. You're in this body. How does it feel when you're meditating or whatever? We don't repress or deny these things, because Holy Spirit can use those feelings to say, oh, hold it, my foot hurts today. Maybe I shouldn't go out walking 3 miles. I should be careful with my foot. Give it a break. I mean, not be stupid about this stuff. Remember when you're younger, you just fight through all this and you strain yourself some more or whatever we're doing. But the thing is, in the Garden of Eden, we remembered we were spirit, and we were just how we felt to be inside this body. And we had a nose. We could smell flowers. ears. We had eyes, ears, we could go and hear those sounds. So that's why when we're developing and cultivating the now, we're bringing our mind back from being scattered, just being scattered, going with whatever happened, to being within the mind. Well, first we're in the mind, and you're aware of what you're thinking, feeling, hearing. You're bringing your attention to all that, and then you bring your attention to this vertical space. That's what Jesus calls his vertical axis, and I call it this now, and it's the now. The now is where the vertical axis intersects the horizontal physical plane that we made in the physical world, the body, the physical world. Where they intersect, the point where they meet is the eternal moment, the now. So how do you stay? How do you stay in that now? Well, one is to take your hand and put it in front of your nose and between your two eyes, because there's a third eye. Your Christ vision, Buddha vision, God vision is this third eye. And I say to myself, now. So when I was out walking, thinking about how can I opening the crack of the eternal moment, when I saw the now, this vertical axis, I pictured it as a line, as just a line. And I let the line crack open. Just let the line crack open. And when the line cracks open, you're left with this spacious, vast, clear light of your spirit and the union with the not two-ness of everything. That's the eternal moment. When it cracks open and there's this vast spaciousness, you can only think of it as it's like space. That's the eternal moment. So how do you stay there? So then that's why we have a Course in Miracles that has lessons and texts that you contemplate and you read. But I want to reiterate what Jesus says, and I printed it. Right before a group, I'm going into the course and I'm printing, and it's lesson 31. And I was telling people before we started recording that I'm embarrassed to think I never knew that A Course in Miracles talks about all the time. Jesus talks about meditation, two aspects he calls it, it's a form of practice, and I'm going to read it. One is this meditation that he wants you to generalize. He asks you, if you've done all the lessons or you're doing the lessons, what can you generalize from these? And that there's two things: to have regular meditation for you as you wake up in the morning and before you go to sleep at night. And he doesn't use the word meditation because like I explained a few weeks back, I really feel like, and that's a thought I got from Holy Spirit, people have a airy-fairy judgment about meditation and get turned off by meditation because there's types of meditation out there try to repress thought. That is not what Jesus is teaching. And that teaching, I'm going to read from the Course, A Course in Miracles, lesson 31. Here's what Jesus says. And this lessons, I'm not a victim of the world I see, but in it tells you about his aspects, what he wants you to do. Today's idea is introduction to your declaration and release. Again, the idea should be applied to both the world you see without and the world you see within. And so how can you see a world within unless you close your eyes and you go within your mind? But anyway, that's meditation. In applying the idea, we will use a form of practice. Here's the word he used for meditation: a form of practice. This exercise, he calls it other places, extended period. Apply the idea on a sustained basis. He uses the word meditation a couple times in the Course. Periods of rest and respite. Abide with him, or a form of practice like he uses in this. That's just another word for meditation. Here's the form of practice I want you to do, which will be used more and more with changes as indicated. because in these lessons, he'll instruct you how to meditate. He gives you precise, and it's called a guided meditation. But anyway, generally speaking, the form includes this form of practice he wants us to do, contains two aspects. One in which you apply the idea on a more sustained basis. See, that's sustained basis, meaning he starts you out with 2 minutes, 3 minutes, 5 minutes, 10 minutes, 15 minutes, 30 minutes, an hour to meditate. He's have mind training. This is mind training. You can master your mind. First, it's just crazy mind, monkey mind is called. I can't even sit there 2 minutes. Then it goes to 3, 5, 10. But anyway, and the other practice he wants you to do is frequent applications of the idea throughout the day. So those are the two aspects. Meditating at least twice a day, when you wake up, before you go to sleep, and applying the idea that he has for that day throughout the day. But he calls the two longer periods of practice, see, that's another word for meditation, with the idea today will be needed, 1 in the morning, 1 at night. But anyway, 3 to 5 minutes is what he's starting here. During this time, look about you slowly while repeating the idea 2 or 3 times. Then close your eyes and apply the same idea to your inner world. You will escape from both together, for the inner is the cause of the outer. As you survey your inner world, merely let whatever thoughts cross your mind come into your awareness, each to be considered for a moment and then replaced by the next. Try not to establish any kind of hierarchy among them. Watch them come and go as dispassionately as possible. Do not dwell on any one in particular, but try to let the stream move on evenly and calmly without any special investment on your part. As you sit and quietly watch your thoughts, repeat today's idea to yourself. Man, when I read that, I'm just like, wow, that's called sky gazing meditation that Dzogchen Buddhism does, where they have you watch the thoughts come and go that are in your mind. And he's saying, don't stop on one of them. He wants you to watch them come and go as dispassionately as you can. And where does he say? Like a stream? Let them move like a stream. Isn't that beautiful? Well, anyway, how do you cultivate being in this now? Being in this vertical axis of now? Well, it's through meditation, mindfulness, and attention. And I look back on what I've done, and those are the things that came to mind. And I wrote them here. I want to look at this. Where's page 1? Okay. Oh, so how can you remember to come back to the now? Oh man, that's mindfulness. That's training your mind to remember, putting sticky notes around, because in the Course, Jesus says, you got to remember to do this. Well, when I look back on my life, I couldn't remember to do it. I'd have to have sticky notes. I'd forget. But that's why we put notes around, because we're developing a holy habit here, not the habit of being distracted, right? You all know that. But when I thought about how to come back to this now, I had to recognize what my mind was doing, what it was thinking about, the past and the future. So, and with this meditation and mindfulness that Jesus is teaching in the Course, what he's causing you to do is to develop an awareness of what the mind is doing, what the egoic mind is doing. It's running the show. It's thinking all these thoughts, and before I know it, I go off with a thought. For example, when I'm out walking, if some car goes by, if I'm not careful, ego says, oh, you used to have a car that color. And then before you know it, I'd go off with the thought, oh yeah, and it was a Toyota, or it was a whatever. And then, oh, that was a good car. And then another thought happens. And before you know it, what happens with ego, it's gluing thoughts and feelings together to make a story. Makes a story. And before we know it, we've got stories of our roles in life, male, female, husband, wife, daughter, child, grandmother, grandfather, whatever uncle, aunt, whatever we are, husband, wife, partners, etc. These are roles. Now, through purification of this mind training, these lessons, not having judgments of our brothers, being aware when I'm judging a brother and coming off that judgment and then thinking of him as holy, the mind becomes clearer and clearer, because picture it's like a snow globe, your mind. When I stop shaking my mind, stirring my mind around like a snow globe, when you shake it and all the snow's just fluttering all around, well, those are thoughts and feelings. When you let the mind, leave it alone, meaning not follow the thoughts and the distractions, and come back to the now, picture your hand right in front of you. This is the vertical now. And just take a breath in, deep breath in, relax, breathe, relax, and smile. Center means come back to this center. This holy center or altar is this sort of this third eye area in the form of whatever. I mean, it's not specifically there, but it becomes a habit. What you're doing, you're bringing your attention. See, you're developing an attention, cultivating an attention of when your mind's wandering and what it's doing, to come back to its true nature. Your true nature is this spaciousness, this vast clear light, this love light that is here now, heaven now, pardon me now. But anyway, when I'd be out walking, I would picture the horizontal plane is like your shoulders, and the vertical plane axis of the now, where they intersect, and you just picture these things. You're reasoning with yourself, and you kind of lean back and quietly, and you're picturing that, that center, your eyes could be even closed, or not really when you're walking, but if you stand off the side of the road and you do this careful, you're looking at this clear light. There's a light behind your forehead. It's there. It's a clear light. Can look like moonlight. You're faking it while you're making it. But it's your determination to visit your holiness over and over and over again throughout the day, and then during meditation. But anyway, and being aware of when your mind's gone off with a story. And in this Buddha Standard Time book, this Lama Surya talks about it like a train. The train, when it goes backward, that's the past, or the train moves forward into the future. You're wanting to stop the train and get the hell off. The train is ego. These continuous thoughts and stories. But first you got to be aware that the train's loose. It's off the rails. It's it's no conductor. It's running wild. So, but why I bring up different words for these discursive thoughts is so you can get a better feel for what the hell's going on here, and picture, well, yeah, I'm going to step off that train into the stillness, the quiet, the still center point of this altar. From the still center point, all this love, light, and energy is flowing naturally everywhere. It's creating thoughts, feelings. All these are just projections, just reflections on this clear light mind of yours, your clear light God mind. And picture like a mirror. You stand in front of a mirror. I never really got this either till recently. And when you look at a mirror doesn't change just based on what's being reflected there. It doesn't take on the reflection and change the mirror. You put something else in front of the mirror, it's going to show clearly that reflection. The mirror does not change. The mirror is symbolic of the clear light that you are, and love light that you are, and it clearly reflects whatever shows up in front of you: the trees, your room, your house, your partners, your loved ones. You clearly see these forms, these images, because they're reflecting perfectly. I mean, that's on the clear light spirit of God, your mind. But the mirror doesn't change. The mirror, and it's like a mountain. Picture like a mountain. In meditation, we picture that we're like a mountain in meditation, where you're grounded like a pyramid or like a mountain. And you think about that the mountain, when something falls on the mountain, that doesn't bother the mountain. Something grows on the mountain, that doesn't bother the mountain. The mountain doesn't, that's the mountain. Well, your mind's not bothered by all this. Only the ego judgment's bothered by that's labeling and judging all this stuff that gets bothered. But anyway, so how do I, when I look back on, how do I stay in this eternal moment? Is since I found that sentence, opening the crack of the eternal moment, I will say that to myself and relax. And I see the line and it cracks open. Like you see a crack on an eggshell, it cracks and then the egg opens, right? Well, your mind, this egoic mind, it'll damn open. It opens, and it opens in holy instances. This is what you're doing. And you touch on this light, you get a feeling of union, whatever these are experiences beyond the body. That's what Jesus teaches in the Course. We're wanting to go beyond the body to these experiences of union of our mind with holiness, with our holy Christ mind, or see it, feel it. And then that line closes. And so what meditation does for you, you're opening that crack. It's called a drip at a time. Picture that. That might be another phrase that might help you. A drip at a time. And I found that in a post, and I wrote it down because I wanted to read this to you. Let's see what this says. One drip at a time. Well, I'm not sure where to start, but utilizing those few seconds. See, what you're doing is seconds at a time, coming back to the now. When you find yourself willing or even desiring just to take a break from the daily grind, to observe your mind rather than drifting off in daydreams. See, that's why you're remembering, got these sticky notes on. Take a few seconds and come back, and you're wanting to take a break from the daily grind. Practicing like this, one drip at a time, you'll find yourself gradually becoming free of the mental and emotional limitations that are the source of fatigue, disappointment, anger, and despair, and discover within yourself an unlimited source of clarity, wisdom, diligence, peace, compassion, patience. See, I had no idea the magnitude of what the heck Jesus was teaching if I would commit to the two aspects that he wants me to do. Doing some meditation, usually at fixed times, scheduling it, not forgetting to do it, like he's spending some time with God, he calls it, and yourself and your brothers. But anyway, all right, now let's see, what else would I do? Oh, here's this exact quote from page 114 in that book, Lama Surya Das's book, Standard Time. Buddha Standard Time. See, isn't that funny? Instead of Central Standard Time, Eastern Standard Time. It's Buddha Standard Time. You could call it Christ Standard Time, meaning living in the Christ time, living in the Buddha time, not living in the worldly, egoic time. But anyway, here's what he says. Tuning in, creating a channel. See, that's what you're doing. We're tuning in, creating a channel, opening the crack in the internal moment, focusing on the present moment when we, period, when we run into trouble, meaning during the day, whatever, trouble, we need only stop, take a breath, find our center. There, you know where your center is, this straight line, this spot right behind between your two eyes, find your center, take that breath, center yourself, and take stock. Concentrative meditation trains us to do this. And the greater our level of concentrated attention, the more we can take in, the more grounded we feel, and the more able we are to make thoughtful choices. Because see, what happens is you get this gap then. It's called a sacred pause, a gap between thoughts. And that gap and that sacred pause between thoughts and feelings, as you bring your wandering mind back from all that discursive thoughts, back to this center space of clear spaciousness, and you just faking it while you make it. And then you recognize when the mind wanders, you bring it back. And what that does, that allows you during the day to recognize when your mind's wandered off. And when your mind's telling a story about your neighbor or your family member or a politician, and you go, no, I'm thinking holy thoughts. They're God, they're spirit, right? And then, you know, what I also think about is the vertical great ray. See, in the Course, that great ray that connects you to eternity, there's the huge source of the sun is above your head. That great ray comes off, it comes straight down, it's vertical. That vertical great ray is also right in the now, right there in your mind. I picture that. And let's see, whatever. Let's see, that's what page is that? Let's see what else, guys. I'm running out of time. Let's see. Oh, and then Jesus says, I want to reiterate, you're the light of the world, and that the thought system is light, the Holy Spirit one. Here's the quote. The cornerstone of God's creation is you, for his thought system is light. See, you are the light of the world. See, you are light. Literally, you are this clear light. But your thoughts, the pure God, Christ, Buddha thought system is light. Remember the rays that are there unseen. The more you approach the center of his thought system, the clearer the light becomes. Now that's in chapter 11, introduction 3. In that sentence, those two sentences, Jesus is talking about you're the light. Remember the rays that are there unseen. The more you approach the center of his thought system, meaning the Holy Spirit, God, and that center is behind your forehead, this third eye area. You come back to this thought system, bring in your mind, your attention, the clearer the light becomes. So over time, this is just developing a habit. Now here's where he talks about horizontal and vertical planes. All this is a miracle minimizes the need for time. In the longitudinal or horizontal plane, the recognition of the equality of the members of the sonship appears to involve almost endless time. When we keep dwelling in the horizontal time frame, not thinking of our brothers as spirit or light, love, and not thinking of ourselves that way, or not even thinking about God, well, we're all equal. Then we're not thinking about equality. And see what Jesus says here, the recognition of the equality of the members of the sonship involves endless time. So our time is not collapsed when we're not becoming mindful, bringing the attention back to the center, pausing, taking a breath in, relaxing, leaning back, resting there for a second or two, a drip at a time. However, the miracle entails a sudden shift from horizontal to vertical perception. It's the vertical. This is the vertical perception. This introduces an interval from which the giver and the receiver both emerge further along in time than they otherwise would have. And this miracle abolishes time, saves thousands of years. I'm just reading here, saves thousands of years. So this, what I'm explaining here, sounds so simple, but it's so huge. It can save you and humanity, sentient beings, thousands of years, because when you save time, it saves it for everybody. And this saving time does so by the underlying recognition of perfect equality of giver and receiver on which the miracle rests. The miracle shortens time by collapsing it, thus eliminating certain intervals within it. It does this, however, within the larger temporal sequence. Temporal means the physical world, the ephemeral world. It's huge. It's huge. Bringing your mind back to this vertical center is just huge. I'm going to keep going because this is, and here's a quote from this Buddha Standard Time book. Just, most of us stay obsessively stuck in the past or in the future. I forgot that part. So when you break this, you come here to this vertical now, concentrate on the now, now, and you just rest there and get that moment of rest, quiet. You interrupted, you broke the railroad track of past and future. Because Jesus says in the Course, when you don't stop it, what happens? The past becomes the future. Everything, these past judgments, just karma, make up the future events. It's all continuous as ego, linear, longitudinal thought system. The past makes the future. You never stop and get off the train and pause in the now and interrupt that. You want to interrupt and stop. You're not thinking past or future. But anyway, here's what Lama Surya says. Most of us stay obsessively stuck in the past or in the future. And with meditation, mindfulness and attention development, you're aware when your mind's wandered off into the past, when the mind wanders off into the future. Running our called mental trains backward and forward on that track every minute of the day. We have a limited view of ourselves and our capacities, and nothing will change unless we stop the train and get off. We can stop the train. Buddhist wisdom teaches that the minutes and hours of our days do not merely march from future to present to past, looming, engulfing us, passing us by forever. Rather, each moment is intersected. Now, here's the Jesus teaching, intersected by a realm of infinite spaciousness and timelessness, known in Tibetan as Shicha, the eternal now. Dzogchen Buddhism, Tibetan Buddhism, is teaching the same thing Jesus is teaching in the Course. This is the precious awakened dimension that I call Buddha Standard Time and is available to us every instant. When we are in touch with being only in the present moment, only with what is instead of what we regret, fear, or anticipate, our sense of limits in time will no longer have negative power over our lives. We'll be living in the present moment. See, that's what we're doing over and over again. You're bringing your mind back from the past, the future, into this present moment. And then in the present moment, you're aware of what you're thinking, saying, and doing, and you're choosing to think holy thoughts. It's just so beautiful about yourself, your brothers. And then I'm going to keep going because time's passing. Bless your brother in time and you will be in eternity. Listen to this quote from Jesus. So when you remember to stop, get off the train, and in an instant think about your brother as spirit, whole, pure, and innocent, all is forgiven and released. You're blessing him in time, and you're bringing both of you into eternity. Like I have the magnitude of what we're doing just is coming more and more obvious to me. It's just huge. There's no words to describe the magnitude of what you're doing, not just for yourself, but for all of humanity, all sentient beings, to release them from the light. I mean, from the darkness. And somewhere I word processed here, I found this quote. What you're doing is, it was just, well, let's finish with this one, this quote. Then I'm going to go with the only aspect time is now, but now is when you take you and your brothers out of darkness. That's right. Oh, that's here, T13. I'm going to read this one next. But in your mind, you can accept the whole sonship and bless it with the light your Father gave it. Then you will be worthy to dwell in the temple with him, because it is your will not to be alone. God blessed his Son forever. If you will bless him, your brothers, in time, you will be in eternity. Time cannot separate you from God if you use it on behalf of the eternal. I mean, so we're faking it while we're making it, but it's huge. You're coming to the eternal. When you stop and come back to the center, here is chapter 11, section 3, paragraph 8. Here's chapter 13, section 8, paragraph 5. Every miracle you offer to the Son of God is but the true perception of one aspect of the whole. Through every aspect is the whole. You cannot know this until you see that every aspect is the same, perceived in the same light, and therefore one. Every one of your brothers is whole, pure, and innocent, filled with that light that we filled the Garden of Eden for us with, and fell asleep and forgot what we did. Everyone seen without the past thus brings you nearer to the end of time by bringing healed and healing sight into the darkness and enabling the world to see. For light must come into the darkened world to make Christ's vision possible even here. Help him to give his gift of light to all who think they wander in darkness, and let him gather them into his quiet sight that makes them one. Woo! That is so beautiful. That just brings tears to my eyes when Jesus trying to tell, just bring them to the light, for the light must come into the darkened world to make Christ's vision possible. So each time you come back from the wandering railroad track of past and future, riding in the train just along the track, back and forth into the past, anticipating the future, expecting future results, etc., whatever. We still can plan, but yet we're not obsessive about all this. You still can plan and budget, but you know what I'm talking about is that the mind takes over and just spouting future expectations and of the future, blah, blah, blah. When you go into this vertical spot, you're coming to the light. You're bringing light to the whole, all the universes. It's darkness. You're bringing light into the darkness, and that must be done, he says, and you're having Christ's vision and don't even realize it. In that drip of a moment, drip in time, a present moment, we're doing this moment by moment, you're remembering to practice coming back to your eternal now, cracking open that vertical line like an eggshell and just softening. Like last week, we breathed out and followed the breath and connected with the breath and followed the breath out and dissolved into it. You can do that. You just take that, exhale and follow that breath out through that crack. And when you do that, you're in the spacious God clear light, your Christ mind, Buddha mind. It's that simple. You're not aware totally of it yet, but that's the deal. It's just so beautiful. Now let's see what else I've got here, because I got pages of notes here. The vertical ray. Let's see, what page is that? 3. Cultivate awareness of what you're thinking. Here's some quotes from Jesus. Let's see. This is page 3. Oh, I love this one. This is workbook 75, lesson 75, paragraph 10. And it's cultivating awareness. That's what all these lessons are doing. Having you go from ordinary ego awareness to awakened awareness, meaning Christ awareness, that all these forms are you. All these forms are you. The trash cans you, the trees you, the birds you, the flowers you, everything's you, because there's no separation. And there's just this God light animating everything, which is what we are. We're all in this together. We're all interconnected. There's no, that's why Jesus says, treat your neighbor like have your neighbor be like yourself. There is no separation. We're all this one Christ, God, Buddha light going through everything. But anyway, here's what Jesus says. Picture how we've in the past said that, oh, that person pulled me back down. Now, what a bad, they got bad energy, blah, blah, blah. Here's Jesus's lesson 75. Should you be tempted to say anyone, should you be tempted, say to anyone who seems to pull you back into darkness, the light has come, I have forgiven you. We dedicate this day to the serenity in which God would have you be. Keep it in your awareness of yourself and see it everywhere. As we celebrate the beginning of your vision, here's the word vision again, and the sight of the real world. The sight of the real world is this clear, invisible, spacious God mind that's everything includes everything, which has come to replace the unforgiven world you thought was real. So you're forgiving the world. But see, look what he says here. Should you be tempted to say to anyone who seems to pull you back into darkness? See, you got to catch these thoughts where I'm thinking, oh, that person's got bad energy. I don't like being around them, blah, blah, blah. They pulled me down. Oh, wah, wah, wah. All that whining ego stuff. Well, that's a big judgment. And that goes into the unconscious mind. So we're believing all that stuff about ourselves. But Jesus says, the light has come. I have forgiven you. Meaning this is advanced forgiveness. We're not literally forgiving their actions, because that's forgiveness to destroy. Where advanced forgiveness, think of them as spirit, whole, pure, and innocent. Oh, now I want to cover in this book, what happens is people don't think about it. There's somewhere about these vibrations. If Danelle was here, she gets it. When you become a light being, what happens? You are a light being, not becoming. You are. We simply have obscured our light with all these thoughts and judgments. 7, 6. Oh, page 119. Science has proven that we have certain, the mind, human brain, produces 4 basic types of vibrations. And what Jesus is having happen, as you remember what you are and experience what you are, your light is awakening. You're becoming more enlightened. Your vibration changes. Your light changes. Picture this one beta wave occurs during active thinking and problem solving. That 13 to 18 HERTZ. Alpha waves take place during relaxation and calm. Theta waves correspond to sleep, deep relaxation, hypnosis, and visualization. Delta waves are 4 hertz occur during sleep. More recently, a 5th type of vibrations been found. Gamma brain waves, 39 to 100 hertz, have been discovered. They are produced during higher mental activity, and the consolidation of information. They are present upon awakening and during rapid eye movement, sleep, REM, as well as during higher states of awareness, including meditation. Compared with ordinary consciousness, meditation increases alpha, beta, theta, and gamma waves and reduces delta waves. The overall effect is to increase concentration and contribute to a calm, creative, and focused pattern of brain activity. As we have seen, meditation also increases synchrony between the two hemispheres of the brain, contributing to originality, alertness, and freshness of perception. That's what I've experienced. You see, the split mind has got these two, it's split. They become joined. These are literal things that happen due to thinking of your brother as spirit and your spirit and practicing what the Course says. And that's why we feel the benefits of calmness and other things due to meditation, because it produces delta waves, increases alpha, beta, theta, and gamma, and produces delta waves. And it increases concentration because, see, until you practice, like concentrating on a candle out in front of you, that's called focused attention. You can then, and that's the purpose of meditation, where you have attention, you're bringing your mind back from these wandering thoughts back to this center. It's all developing a spiritual muscle. But if we don't practice, you can't develop that spiritual muscle. You can say these words all day long. It'll take much longer to wake up, just the way it is. Or Jesus wouldn't be having meditation in the Course. Now, let's see, what else have we got here? But if you really wanna get some lessons and steps and meditations on how to cultivate living in the present moment and unveiling this, is called Buddha Standard Time by this Lama Surya Das, Suryadas. Wow. I've forgotten. I got notes all over that book. Page 6, 7, 2. The workbook's divided in 2 seconds. All right. Here's textbook chapter 5, VI section 1. You've elected to be in time rather than eternity. Therefore, you believe you are in time. He's got R in italics. Yet, your election is both free and alterable. You do not belong in time. Your place is only in eternity, where God himself placed you forever. Guilt feelings are the preservers of time. They induce fears of retaliation or abandonment, and thus ensure that the future will be like the past. God offers you the continuity of eternity in exchange. When you choose to make this exchange, you will simultaneously exchange guilt for joy, viciousness for love, and pain for peace. See, that's how bringing your attention back to into the present eternal moment. Eternity is one time, its only dimension being always. That's a direct quote from chapter 9, section 6. Time itself is your choice. If you would remember eternity, you must look only on the eternal. If you allow yourself to become preoccupied with the temporal, you're living in time. See, now temporal means the physical world and bodies. So how do you not believe in that? In a split second, you bring your mind back to this center point and think of your brother's spirit, or practice the lesson of that day, or some mantra or chant or statement from the Course that brings you back to peace and calm, and think of yourself, your brother, and God, because that's the holy realm. We're taking our mind from the temporal physical realm by all these thoughts, by recognizing what we're thinking, right? We're cultivating awakened awareness. We're cultivating sustained attention, where you can focus your mind on that light when you're meditating and stay in that light longer and longer and longer. And then the mind wanders, you bring it back. And then that means then when you're walking around the physical world, what happens? You're more apt to then let things come and go out in the physical world and respond and not react. So you, just like Jesus says in the Course, first you're having your eyes open practicing these lessons, then you're having your eyes closed because your internal thoughts are making your external world. So as you meditate, you're recognizing what this internal mind, how it's acting and working, and learning and remembering your true nature, which is spirit, this clear light. But anyway, so you can open the crack in the eternal moment, and what that one holy person called a drip at a time, a moment at a time. That's what you're doing. Back to the present moment. The only time that's real is the now, that moment. When you come back and think about that vertical space between your eyes and think about God, that's an eternal, real time. Buddha standard time, Christ vision, Christ heaven. It's heaven too. Heaven, that's heaven. You're in heaven. You're in your Christ mind, your Buddha mind, God mind when you do that. Well, anyway, any thoughts or questions or comments before I stop recording? It's 8:04. I don't want to go over very long. Anyone got any thoughts? Hey, Gonzalo. Hi, welcome.
Hey, thanks for being here. Yeah, so when you said the crack, I read that email today. I said, man, that's a perfect description because, like, when we think of something cracking, we think of something cracking open. And I've heard David Hoffmeister use that language about your mind cracked, because on the surface of things, that's where the thoughts are. Like you said, good description about gluing our thoughts together. The ego goes from one reaction to the other, and it just strings this constant stream of thoughts, past, future, what might happen, blah blah blah, and it just keeps gluing and gluing. It's like sticky, 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 and then we get stuck to it like flypaper, and so the crack and open is kind of like breaking the surface level of those thoughts to be able to go beneath them. And when we go beneath the distraction of all those thoughts, which we've identified with our whole life, that's when we experience a sense of our eternal nature, our true identity. So that's a great description of cracking open, because we need to get past the surface. Obviously, we never deny whatever the thought is that's weighing us down, all the subconscious guilt that comes up. We have to deal with it. We have to ask Holy Spirit, Jesus, help me see this differently. And we do our mind training, our practice, our meditation, all of it we need to be consistent with. But the ego is there to keep us on the surface, so we never crack and go beneath it. It's always, its job is to keep us distracted by this constant stream of thoughts. Stay busy, 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 and we got more thoughts to glue together. That's the job of the ego. That way we never go beneath it and think we're anything but a string of thoughts. So that, and like the email I sent you today was sort of a continuation from last week's, because I really stuck with that meditation, and that was really wonderful in that I think, had taken that deep exhale and sort of joining with everybody in that exhale. And, so I'm walking around, and when I'm seeing everybody and everything moving, I'm not just breathing myself. I'm breathing with everybody, and I'm looking at their third eye and seeing that constant stream of light where we're joining. It's not just me to him to them to it's we've joined in that light. We've joined in that center place. And obviously this is practice. But we just do. But the more you do it with everything we did before, that visual really helped. It helped deepen a sense of oneness, a true identity, the present, the eternal present. It helped deepen it. because it just resonated. It just resonated with that idea of, you know, that breath being one breath, sort of joined breath. That light coming out from us is one light. It's all of us being joined with it. And just now, when you said when grievances arrive, you know, I got a situation with a student right now, and it's creating a lot of resistance with me, out of apprehension. And so, and I wrote that down to remember that, hey, just right away, whether I remember to join with that, we're to join with them in the light, and the prayer, you know, the light has come, I have forgiven you. And so just wonderful reminders. Again, I remind everybody to stick with it, keep doing the mind training, don't back off the practice, because all of this stuff makes a lot more experiential sense when you do it consistently, you know, when you don't kind of let it go and you forget. Like you said, we need to write things down, and we need to be really vigilant, because the ego is there to do the opposite, to keep us distracted. So we've got to be really hell-bent on really remembering and making that our purpose, you know, for the day. And, you know, the deeper we go with that consistency, then the more real these ideas felt. I felt it yesterday, and what I was saying in the email, that I really felt a deep knowing that this is an illusion. Like it, I can't put it in words. I'm telling you, but I can't put it in words. There's a deep knowing that this is a projected illusion in our mind. But at the same time, there was an irritation there. They're like, man, why, if this is an illusion, why are we wasting our fucking time just balling around here, pretending to try to get something in the work? There was also an irritation at the same level, also the ego, to distract us away from that deeper walk and that deeper process. And so it was different, because it was a real knowing, but at the same time, it felt really irritating, you know? So stick with it. Stick with it. The deeper you go, the more you will know what I'm talking about. And so I just kind of encourage everybody, don't look back. Keep going forward, no matter what comes up.
Oh yeah, that, but and as we practice, then naturally we're more relaxed. Things can get brought out of the unconscious to be looked at. So people think, well, I'm practicing, but why have I got more stuff to look at? Well, because all that before was hidden and repressed, but now the thoughts come up.
Yep, exactly.
And so we just write them down in our journal and work with, ask Holy Spirit to help us look at it differently. But the purpose of the practice is to be able to live in the world gentler and more enlivened. The form becomes enlightened with the light. But what happens then, all the senses, we embody Christ and Buddha in the world. Our senses all open up, and we smell things easier. The sense of touch is heightened, hearing is heightened, everything is heightened, and we understand and have more empathy what people are feeling, and when we're talking with people, it becomes how to live in the world while awakened. And even though it's an illusion, we never put the body in harm's way. But what happens, you enjoy life more. You're a better listener. You're a better cooker, a better conversationalist, a better teacher, a better lover, a better everything, because you're more sensitive, more aware and awake. We're not denying the senses, because they just all become heightened, and the form becomes using your hands, your voice, your eyes to help your brothers awaken from the dream by thinking of them as spirit. But also, Gonzalo, you said we go below thoughts, but also what this says, it rises above the battleground. We rise above all this to this eternal light and spaciousness. So it's digging both directions, because it all seems deep, all these thoughts going into the unconscious mind, but we're rising above it. The battleground is what's happening.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, that what you just said was also very accurate. About by going beneath the thoughts, you also rise above, and that's been right in line with what's come to me lately. I shared with you that I've made a recent practice of, in my mind and physically during the day, to bow down to everything that presents itself. Like in my mind, I'm sort of bowing down, namaste, blessing. And, you know, and that had that same effect. It seems like that bowing down is sort of a lowering of the ego self so that we can truly see each other. And, but yes, exactly. The lowering of our personal self allows us to rise above. And again, this is just, you know, we're just talking, but the deeper you go this
Oh,
practice,
yes.
then you start to feel it. You know, it starts to
Oh,
really be experiential, and, you know, we share with words here, but we're
yes.
excited to let you know that this stuff is actually really happening in our consciousness if we allow it to nurture and to deepen. So stick with it.
Oh, yeah. Well put, Gonzalo, because we're honoring. Well, like even like when we chant and pray in our Dzogchen daily meditation, if anybody wants to join that group, we meditate 11 to 12 Eastern time each day. There's a link that I can send. And then on Sunday, there's a free town hall meditation with that Lama Surya Das from 11 to 12 Eastern time. But the thing is, we honor each person as Christ and Buddha. We see that in them and think of them that way. I bow to the Buddha in you. This is not a lowering. This is not a separation thing. We're acknowledging the divinity, the holiness, every act that we can do. As we bless another, it blesses us. It just comes back. But yeah, and thankful for all the ones that came before us, all the Helen Schupman, Bill Thetford, all these beings, enlightened beings and lineage holders that brought all these truths to us, our family and friends that have helped us along the way. All that is has brought us to the point where we're practicing such holy, high teachings. A Course of Miracles. Wow. Where you're the Christ, Jesus is teaching, you're the Christ, equal. Everyone's the Christ. It's only obscured by our thoughts and judgments, the light that we are, the Christ God nature that we are, Buddha nature. Wow. That's what Dzogchen Buddhism teaches. And it can be done like it can be done now. And these realizations don't have to take a lot of time. And with practice, you collapse time. Remember, that was one of the things I read tonight. It's just astonishing. You're collapsing time, saving yourself thousands of years, and the humanity thousands of years. Wow. Way to go. Thanks, Gonzalo. Every time you guys practice, it helps everybody. Keep going, no matter what. You know, and this is a support group. You got to call, email me, or whatever, or dial 911. Someone did some reply on Facebook that I was talking about the Holy Circle of Purity, and bless their hearts, they had a real issue with a person and was thinking about hurting themselves. There's a 988 number, a national hotline for suicide victims. Anybody thinking of suicide, or it's where you can call for help. And that's why Jesus has in A Course in Miracles a psychotherapy section in the book, because it's the mind that's we're wanting to train. But sometimes there's really difficult situations in a person's life that they need psychotherapy help with, besides family and friends and their spiritual teachings. So it's a whole toolbox of things, folks, because the mind is, oh man, the ego mind is just can be quite dramatic and quite catastrophic and painful for people. So anyway, thank you. Any other thoughts or comments before I stop recording here? Before we go, though, each person look at the people on the screen and think of them as Christ, Buddha, God. Just takes a split second. God Nance, God Barbie, God Jerry, God Gonzalo, God Edward, God Leon, God Debbie, God Teresa, who left, God whomever. Yes, God Glenda. Just takes a split second to remember what we are. Then when, at the end of the day, before you go to sleep, try to think about, different people you saw during the day, and just say, God, you are light to them. Because see, you're releasing karma. You don't want to pile more karma on, you want to release karma. So how we think of our brothers is how we think of ourselves. Thank you for coming out tonight. If no other thought or comment, I'll stop the recording. Thank you. Oh, and I have a YouTube channel, Glenda Carlin, A Course in Miracles YouTube, where I put these recordings. Thank you.